Welcome everyone who is here for the live presentation of the town meeting preview. It's coming to you from Town Hall in the Great Hall on Thursday, March 27 at 6 p.m. I'm Steve Trifletti, Plymouth Town Moderator, and I am joined by the Assistant Town Moderator to my right, Nicole Manfredi, to my left. Stephen Neerman is the Chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee, and we have with us the Town Manager, Derek Brindisi, Vice Chair of the Select Board, Kevin Canty, Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance, Kelly McElreath is here as our Town Clerk, and Joseph Lally is also a member of the Advisory and Finance Committee. The purpose of the preview is to give town meeting members and the public an overview of the articles that are going to be coming before the special town meeting and the annual town meeting that is scheduled to begin on a week from Saturday, April 5th at 8 a.m. at Plymouth North High School. And tonight we'll be providing you with motions that have been being presented by the Advisory and Finance Committee, as well as a number of motions to amend. And I'd like to announce that this preview will be shown again on the local scene, Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 47, on the following dates and time: this Saturday at 1:30 p.m., this Sunday, March 30th at 12 noon and 4 p.m., and Monday, March 31st at 7 p.m. It'll also be online now while we're doing this live, and then after the meeting, it can be at Plymouth Meetings YouTube channel, youtube.com/@PlymouthMeetingsLS. And with that, I'd like to have Nicole Manfredi speak to us about a few other things with respect to town meeting. Nicole.
Good evening. Tonight, we welcome both in-person and remote town meeting participation with a handful of town meeting members expected to join us via the Zoom webinar feature. All town meeting members should have received an email from me today. Please be sure to read the details of that email carefully. It includes important updates, updated participation instructions, and it also includes the new table policy, which the moderator has asked me to read tonight, so I'll do that now. The table policy reads as follows. The town of Plymouth has approximately 70 elected and appointed town boards and committees. There are occasions that these boards and committees want to share their projects with town meeting members before, during, and after town meeting. To ensure equal access to all appointed and elected town boards and committees at town meeting, and to prevent any organization from impeding or obstructing the entry or exit of town meeting members, the moderator has established the following policy. Only recognized, elected, and appointed Town of Plymouth boards and committees will have the opportunity to have a table present and display their board committee projects to town meeting members. No more than 4 tables will be allowed at town meeting. It will be determined as first come, first serve on a rotating basis, so everyone has an opportunity. Tables will allow town meeting members to enter the Center for Performing Arts unimpeded. No outside organization is allowed to impede or obstruct the entry or exit of town meeting members and must remain 150 feet from any unlocked door for town meeting at Plymouth North High School. Any questions about this policy can be directed to the town clerk's office. The April 5th town meeting will again be held in a hybrid format to provide maximum access to the voting members. In-person participation is best and expected. However, remote participation is available to town meeting members who know in advance that they will not be able to participate in person. It is not meant to be an alternative option simply for convenience, but to accommodate members who are truly unable to attend in person. To be eligible for remote participation, you must have the proper technology to support this, reliable Wi-Fi and computer, and a basic understanding of computer browsers and related system technology. If you wish to register for remote participation, please notify myself and Town Clerk Kelly McElreath by the deadline, which is tomorrow, March 28th at noon. There will be no exceptions to this deadline. Due to technology and staff limitations, once you register for remote participation, you are locked into that format and will no longer be eligible to participate in person. This includes any adjourned sessions. If town meeting adjourns to Monday and you are a remote participant, you will remain a remote participant and will not be eligible to attend in person. Currently, over 30 town meeting members have registered to vote for remote participation. On March 31st, these members will receive a single email from Dave Anton at Local Scene that will include both Zoom and vVoter credentials. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me at naskmanfredi@gmail.com.
Thank you, Nicole Manfredi, Assistant Town Moderator. In preparation for the town meeting, there are a number of books that have been provided, including the Plymouth Public Schools Fiscal 26, the budget book, also the report and recommendations of the Advisory and Finance Committee for the annual town meeting, the spring annual town meeting general government proposed operating budget, although when we go to town meeting to debate the budget, I want to remind everybody that we use a printout that is at the back of the motions packet. And for those of you that are here tonight, if you've not already obtained a copy, there was a copy when you first came in of the motions. So in the back, if you have a motion to amend, and we have a few, we go to the items on this particular printout. In addition, the report and recommendations of the spring special town meeting. And of course, we have our town meeting handbook, and we have the bylaws and the charter. And finally, I'm going to briefly touch on the fact that we use town meeting time, handbook of parliamentary law, but there is a new edition, and the new edition has just come out. It looks like this. We have a number of copies on order, not only for the use of the few of us that need to use it often, but also there'll be some available for people to borrow. I'm not going to get into all of the changes, but I do want you to know that this particular edition talks about consent agendas. It talks about statutory provisions for remote and hybrid meetings. We're the only town meeting in the Commonwealth currently doing the hybrid, and we will once again be visited by another moderator from Weston, since they're looking at possibly going to the hybrid. The new book has the Community Preservation Act, Conflict of Interest Law and Regulations, Open Meeting Law and Regulations, Accessibility Accommodations, Technology. There's a lot more technology in this related to electronic voting, electronic presentations, recording, and the internet, emergency postponement of town meeting, some significant court decisions, and the lessons of the pandemic. So we'll be talking more about that as we move forward with town meeting and in the future. But at this time, we're going to start with the motions that are coming before us. And the initial motions are procedural. So we'll see here we have to, at the start of each town meeting, move that we do the representative remote hybrid representative town meeting. We have to have a vote for that. We have an adjourned session on the following Monday if we need it. We're going to recess out of the annual and move to the special. And if there are any other procedural motions, I've already had one person say, I want to speak on 3 articles, when are they going to be heard? I always say, I can't tell you, because after the opening ceremonies, it's up to all of you, town meeting members assembled in this room, to decide the order. We have a warrant, but you can change the order at any time with a 2/3 vote. And once we vote on something, you can then move to reconsider. If someone who voted on the prevailing side wants to reconsider, they can move that. So you can change the order, because we're going to be going chronologically, but that doesn't mean that that's how we're going to end up. But for tonight's purposes, we're going to begin, once we get in the special, we'll again have a procedural motion to go hybrid, and then we'll go right into Article 1, unpaid bills of a prior year. This is primarily tonight going to be our Chair of the Advisory Finance Committee, Steve Neerman. Mr. Neerman, Article 1.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 1, unpaid bills, by a unanimous vote of 12-4, 0 against, 0 abstentions.
And this is a 9/10 vote, all our votes being done electronically. Our roll call. Peter Gordon from the Water Department is available to answer questions. Article 2 is a motion on budget amendments. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 2. Approval of this article will set the fiscal 2026 spending caps for each of the revolving funds listed herein pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Subchapter 53E 1/2. We were unanimous, 13-4, 0 against, and 0 abstentions.
And our town clerk, who's here this evening, Kelly McElrath, is available to answer questions. Article 3, capital improvements. And you'll see here that the way in which we're handling this is we're combining two of the A items, and then we're going to vote the B items separately. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee, by a unanimous vote, recommends town meeting approve Article 3, A1 and A2, shown in the table in your packet, for the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and to meet this appropriation of $151,048 be transferred from the Environmental Affairs Fund.
David Gould, the Director of Energy and Environmental Affairs, is available to answer questions. And we have the A1, A2, B1 involves borrowing, so that's 2/3. The first one's, the A1's a majority, and B2, the Town Brook Morton Park culverts, also 2/3. Mr. Neerman, did you have anything else to add on your Article 3?
Yes, the Advisory and Finance Committee, by unanimous vote, 13-4, 0 against, and 0 abstentions, recommends town meeting approve Article 3B1 for Town Brook Jenny Pond Dam repairs and bypass. We also unanimously recommended that town meeting approve Article 3B2 motion, Town Brook Morton Park culverts.
Thank you. Next, in the special town meeting, and tonight's preview is also a presentation night. We have one presentation coming up. We have several others that are being held until town meeting. Select Board Member David Golden will make the presentation at town meeting, as well as town meeting member George McKay. But we will have one from the schools shortly. But first, Article 4 is a purchase of services, Crystal reports. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 4 by a unanimous vote of 13-4, 0 against, 0 abstentions. Approval of this article will set the annual stipends for the Select Board and the Town Moderator. There are no changes to the stipend amounts this year. The Chair of the Select Board will receive a stipend of $4,500.
This is for the special.
Are we on the special? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Never mind. Let's go back. Crystal reports. The Advisory and Finance Committee approves recommends town meeting approve Article 4, Crystal purchase of services, Crystal reports in the tune of $175,875 to pay the cost of services for Crystal reporting services migration for the Finance Department and for the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, $175,875 shall be transferred from free cash.
It's a majority and a roll call vote. Article 5 is the Hedge and Cold Spring Elementary Feasibility Study. First go to Mr. Neerman for your motion, Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends that town meeting approve the Hedge and Cold Spring Elementary Feasibility Study, Article 5, by a vote of 11-4, 1 vote against, and 0 abstentions. The approval of this article will authorize a feasibility study for the replacement or renovation of Hedge Elementary School and the replacement or renovation of Cold Spring Elementary School. The funding for this article will be borrowing.
2/3 vote. We're going to go to Dr. Christopher Campbell, Superintendent of Public Schools. Dr. Campbell.
Thank you very much. Chris Campbell, Superintendent of Schools. We're very happy, pleased to present a video to you regarding Article 5. One thing that is not included in this video, which I think is important for the public to know, is that the reimbursement rate for this funding is set at 53.32%. We are asking for the $2 million. We need to ask for the total funding available for this feasibility and schematic design study, but that is the reimbursement rate. So at this time, we'll play the short video for the public to see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll the video.
Hello, I'm Chris Campbell, Superintendent of Plymouth Public Schools. Today I want to talk to you about an exciting opportunity for our community, one that will support our students, protect our taxpayers, and ensure our schools are ready for the future. This opportunity is Article 5, which seeks $2 million for a feasibility and schematic design study to explore the consolidation of Hedge and Cold Spring Elementary Schools into a single, modern, and state-of-the-art facility. As many of you know, our elementary schools are the foundation of our community, supporting our youngest learners and shaping the future of Plymouth. However, many of our elementary schools, like Hedge and Cold Spring, are aging and in need of significant improvements. Hedge is 114 years old, and Cold Spring is 74 years old. Both schools are undersized by 40% compared to state standards and have faced persistent challenges, from inadequate space to outdated infrastructure. By consolidating Hedge and Cold Spring into one updated school building with modern amenities, we can address these challenges directly, improving learning environments for our students in the near future and for years to come. A major step towards achieving these improvements is the approval of Article 5.
Our district has been accepted into the Massachusetts School Building Authority's eligibility period, which gives us the chance to explore the consolidation of Hedge and Cold Spring elementary schools. But what does that mean? The MSBA eligibility period is a 270-day timeframe in which the district must complete several critical steps to ensure we are ready to move forward with a major school building project. Initial compliance certification. Formation of the school building committee. Educational profile questionnaire. Enrollment projection. Maintenance and capital planning. Local vote authorization, Article 5. Feasibility study agreement. This brings us to Article 5. Article 5 is crucial because it requests $2 million to fund the feasibility study and schematic design phases of this project. These funds will allow us to hire experts, such as architects, engineers, and project managers, to design the best path forward for consolidating the two schools. The study will include evaluating whether building a new school or renovating an existing facility is the most effective solution. The need for change is clear. Our facilities are struggling to meet the needs of both students and staff. Both schools have had to get very creative with their spaces. For example, at Hedge, the gymnasium is used as a music room and a hallway, and teacher workspaces are placed in stairwells. These makeshift solutions are not ideal for fostering the best learning environment for our children. Additionally, they create inequities among the conditions our students and staff experience. So, why consolidate these schools? By bringing the two schools together into one new facility, we can reduce long-term maintenance costs, improve space utilization, and create a modern learning environment. This consolidation would also help address some of the major deficiencies our current schools face, such as ADA compliance, HVAC issues, and outdated fire suppression systems.
If Article 5 passes, it will allow us to initiate the feasibility and schematic design process. This will include site testing, environmental assessments, and exploring design options. Once this study is completed, we'll have a clear picture of what the new school could look like and how it will serve our students for generations to come. Article 5 is not just about buildings, it's about our students' future. A modern, consolidated school will provide our children with space, resources, and opportunities they need to thrive. It will also support our teachers by providing them with better tools and facilities to enhance the educational experience. It's an investment in our future, one that benefits every member of the Plymouth community. We're excited about the possibilities this project presents, but we need your support. We ask that you vote in favor of Article 5. With your approval, we can take the first step towards creating a brighter future for Plymouth students and a more sustainable school system. Thank you for your time and commitment to our children's education.
Thank you. Dr. Campbell, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think the video spoke for itself. I could have done without the intro from the tired person at the beginning, but happy to answer any questions that anyone has in the community
Anyone
as well.
here at Town Hall have a question for Dr. Campbell? If not, anybody we also have people participating remotely, but I don't see any questions at this time. Again, we'll have a chance to debate and deliberate at town meeting. Article 6, General Purpose Stabilization Fund. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 6, which is the General Purpose Stabilization Fund for $525,000. Our vote was unanimous, 13-4, against, 0 abstentions. Approval of this article will help the town achieve its goal in accordance with the Town of Plymouth's financial policy recommendation to have at least 5% of our operating budget in our General Purpose Stabilization Fund. This article authorizes the town to transfer $525,000 from free cash to the General Purpose Stabilization Fund. The current balance in the General Purpose Stabilization Fund is $13,943,974. Back to you.
Thank you. And Lynn Barrett is the Director of Finance, available to answer questions as a majority vote. And moving to Article 7, a funding request for tax title properties. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by unanimous vote of 12-4, 0 against, 0 abstentions to recommend to town meeting approve Article 7, approval of $100,000. Approval of this article will authorize the title examination and affidavit recordings of tax title properties that were conveyed to other land uses through previous town meeting action.
Lee Hartman is the Director of Planning and Development, and he'll be available to answer questions for Article 7 of the special town meeting. Article 8, revolving fund cruise lines. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by unanimous vote 12-4, 0 against, 0 abstentions, that town meeting approve Article 8. Approval of this article will establish a new cruise line revolving fund to deposit 2/3 of all fees collected related to cruise line docking in Plymouth Harbor and to pay maintenance and/or improvements to Town Wharf, personnel costs, supplies, and materials. This article also authorizes the spending limit of $100,000 for fiscal year 2025 and subsequent years. Back to you.
Our Harbor Master, Chad Hunter, is available to answer questions. Article 9 is the revolving fund for the animal shelter. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by unanimous vote 12-4, 0 against, 0 abstentions, that town meeting approve Article 9. Approval of this article will change the designated department officer authorized to spend from this fund from the Director of Marine and Environmental Affairs to the Director of Public Health, as shown in the warrant. Back to you.
And Karen Keene is the Director of the Department of Public Health, and she'll be available to answer questions. Majority roll call vote. Article 10 in the special is the Treasurer Collector Certification Stipend. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee unanimously voted 13-0 to recommend town meeting approve Article 10, the Treasurer/Collector Certification Stipend. Approval of this article will accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Subchapter 108P. A treasurer or collector who completes the necessary training and receives certification as a Massachusetts municipal treasurer or collector is entitled to receive an additional compensation in the amount of 10% of the annual salary up to a maximum of $1,000 annually.
Thank you. Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance, available to answer questions. Majority. Article 11 is a bylaw amendment, the perpetual care funds. Mr. Neerman.
Okay, the Advisory and Finance Committee voted unanimously 13-4, 0 against, and 0 abstentions to recommend to town meeting approve Article 11. Approval of this article will amend the general bylaws by amending Chapter 71, particularly Chapter 71-5, Perpetual Care Funds, to reflect the current Massachusetts general law, consistent with the proposed language as placed on file with the town clerk, with underlined text to be inserted and strike-through text to be deleted.
Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance, available to answer questions. Also, the Treasurer and Collector would be available. It's a majority vote. Article 12. Article 12 is going to be moved by Betty Cavaco, Precinct 6. I don't see Betty in the room, so I'm going to read into the record the motion under Article 12. Betty Cavaco moves the town vote to accept a provision of Chapter 135 of the Acts of 2024 to exclude its municipal administrative buildings and town property from being defined as prohibited areas under Chapter 269, Section 10, thereby allowing possession of a firearm, loaded or unloaded, as defined in Section 121 of Chapter 140 in said buildings. Betty Cavaco will be speaking in support of her motion at town meeting. Thereafter, we will go to the Advisory and Finance Committee. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Ms. Cavaco. The Advisory and Finance Committee does not recommend town meeting approve Article 12 by a vote of 5 votes for, 6 votes against, and 2 abstentions. The main sentiment on our committee was for the safety and well-being of town employees, the children and public that frequent town buildings like playgrounds, recreation areas, libraries, and other public spaces around town.
Thank you. Kevin Canty, Vice Chair of the Select Board. Your board has previously held a hearing on special town meeting Article 12. Will you be having further hearing on this article?
It's on the, yes, it's on the agenda for the meeting of the Select Board this coming Tuesday.
Anything else you'd like to say?
Not at this time.
Thank you. And so that is, what is the date of that meeting?
That is April 1st.
And at what time?
The open session is scheduled to begin at 6, although there's an executive beforehand. So, but if you want to get a good seat, 6.
Thank you. And now, at this time, I don't know if anyone has any questions on Article 12 in the special. If not, on Saturday, April 5th, this would be a time when we could take up any other procedural motions, such as a motion to reconsider. Otherwise, we would entertain a motion to dissolve. And if a motion to dissolve is successful and passes, that would then eliminate the opportunity to go back to any of the articles in the special town meeting, because it is not an adjournment, it is a dissolution of the special town meeting. And it's a majority vote.
And I move to dissolve this Plymouth special town meeting.
And that would be from the Advisory and Finance Committee. Now, we would then proceed to reopen the annual, which had been recessed in order to go into the special. And in the annual, absent any other motions to change the order, we're going to begin with a consent agenda. And Mr. Neerman moves that the following articles of the annual town meeting warrant be considered under a consent agenda, and that such articles be approved and acted upon as written in the warrant and as set forth in the report and recommendations of the Advisory and Finance Committee. It includes Articles 1, 3, 4, 14, and 15. Mr. Neerman, I'll ask you to begin with Article 1.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by unanimous vote 13-4, 0 against, and 0 abstentions, that town meeting approve Article 1, which is the reports of boards, officers, and committees. Approval of this article will allow boards and committees to place their reports on file with the town clerk. Most board and committee reports can be found in the annual town report.
And Article 3, Mr. Neerman.
The Advisory and Finance Committee also unanimously recommends to town meeting to approve Article 3, which is the continuation of committees. Approval of this article will authorize the Cedarville Steering Committee and the Plymouth Center Steering Committee to continue to operate for the next 3 years, with a further review in 3 years at the 2028 annual town meeting.
Article 4, Mr. Neerman.
Again, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends with a unanimous 13-0-0 vote that town meeting approve Article 4, salaries of elected town officials. Approval of this article will set the annual stipends for the Select Board and Town Moderator. There are no changes to the stipends this year. The Chair of the Select Board will receive a stipend of $4,500. The 4 remaining Select Board members will receive $4,000, and the Moderator will receive $2,000. The funding for these stipends are included in Article 5, the General Fund Budget.
Mr. Neerman, Article 14.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And the Advisory and Finance Committee unanimously recommends to town meeting by a vote of 13-0 to approve Article 14, the Chapter 90 roads. Approval of this article will enable the town to accept state highway, which is Chapter 90 funds for repairs and reconstruction of public roads. While the estimated amount of Chapter 90 funds for fiscal 2026 was not known at the time of this report, the Plymouth did receive more than $1.5 million for fiscal 2025. The town expects a similar amount in fiscal 2026 unless there is a change in policy or in the state's financial health.
And Article 15, Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends, with a unanimous vote of 12-4, 0 against, and 0 abstentions, that town meeting approve Article 15, the Town Promotion Fund. Approval of this article will allow expenditures from the town's promotion fund. The promotion fund, created by special legislation, is funded with 45% of the receipts from the hotel motel tax. The Visitors Services Board oversees expenditures from this fund. Expenditures include funding special events and celebrations. The Town Promotion Fund is also used to pay a marketing and promotions contract with Sea Plymouth, Destination Plymouth, which provides the town with television and print advertising around the country and abroad, maintains a waterfront information booth, and provides for the operation of the Sea Plymouth website.
Thank you, Mr. Neerman. Earlier, at the start of this preview, I did mention that our parliamentary handbook is town meeting time. There is currently now a 4th edition that has just come out, and in this 4th edition, one of the sections has to do with consent agendas. Consent agendas have been recommended in our parliamentary handbook, town meeting time, also by the Massachusetts Moderators Association. The reason why consent agendas are recommended is because they usually contain articles that have previously had little or no debate and are usually unanimous or near unanimous, and it's an effort to try to streamline town meetings so that we can focus our time on the other remaining articles. So we'll take a majority vote on this, and then if it doesn't pass, we would take one separately. But at this time, assuming that the consent agenda passes, we would move from the consent agenda into Article 5.
It would go to 2.
Article 2, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Article 2.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mr. Moderator.
revolving funding, spending limits, yes.
The
you.
Advisory and Finance Committee recommends, with a unanimous vote of 13-4, 0 against, 0 abstentions, that town meeting approve Article 2. Approval of this article will set the fiscal 2026 spending caps for each of the revolving funds listed herein pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Subchapter 53E and 1/2.
Thank you. Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance, available to answer questions. And again, this is a majority roll call. Now, we would move to Article 5. Article 5 is the general operating budget, and you'll see this year that we have separate articles. to be heard in separate motions. So, under this, first we have Subcommittee Report A. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee is recommending unanimously, by a vote of 13-0 to 0, a decrease of $6,700 to the town elections budget due to the cost savings from the reduction in polling locations. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve an appropriation of $16,653,088, which differs from the Subcommittee Report A.
Thank you. It's a majority vote. Next, Subcommittee Report B. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by unanimous vote 13-0 to 0 approval of Subcommittee Report B's section of the budget and recommends town meeting approve an appropriation of $88,146,820 as detailed in Subcommittee Report B.
Thank you. Majority vote. Subcommittee Report C. Mr. Neerman.
And the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by unanimous vote 13-0 to 0 approval of Subcommittee Report C section of the budget and recommends town meeting approve an appropriation of $38,366,530 as described in Subcommittee Report C.
The main motion is a majority vote. We also have motions to amend, which are majority votes. The first motion to amend, Jerry Williams, Precinct 8, moves that the police departmental equipment budget be reduced by $78,134. Mr. Neerman has already spoken with respect to his recommendation, and we will hear from Vice Chair of the Select Board, Kevin Canty. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Select Board opposes this proposed reduction to the budget and would request town meeting oppose it as well. In regards to the police department, safety and reliability are the main concern of the police in responding to calls for service. This reduction would reduce the amount of cruisers that the police are able to replace this particular year. The average police vehicle travels 50,000 miles per year. Even when not moving, the cars are constantly running, which adds to wear and tear. The warranty on police cruisers expires at 100,000 miles, which leads to costly repairs coming from the budget after that point. It is not uncommon to replace motors and transmissions and other similar large cost items on these cruisers, and when they are out of the warranty, that is even more expensive to do. The police had been on a rotation of replacing marked cars every 2 or 3 years at maximum, but due to costs and cuts, some of the vehicles currently on the road are 4 to 5 years old. It takes approximately 6 to 9 months to get a replacement for these vehicles, meaning some that we are trying to replace now will be at 180,000 miles or more at the time that their replacements come through. This reduces the trade-in value of those vehicles when they are replaced. Last year, the police had their initial request for replacements for cruisers reduced by 1 vehicle. This year, their initial request has already been reduced by 2 vehicles. This would be a reduction of an additional vehicle, further placing them behind on replacing their fleet and keeping up on maintenance. The amount requested here is based on previous year's numbers, so with expected cost increases, the number of actual vehicles that could be purchased will likely be reduced further already, which adds to concerns of safety and reliability. For those reasons, the Select Board suggests it is not in the best interest of this community to reduce the police budget as suggested.
Thank you. And Dana Flynn, Chief of Police, will be available to answer questions. We'll take this up separately. We'll vote it up or down, and if it is approved, then we'll have a new amount for Subcommittee Report C. If not, we'll be moving with the same. We'll then take up a second motion, which is Jerry Williams, Precinct 8, moves the town vote to reduce fire personal services by $75,000. Again, you've heard from Mr. Neerman, and we'll hear from Kevin Canty, Vice Chair, Select Board.
The Select Board does not recommend that town meeting approve this proposed reduction to the to the fire department personnel service item. This would reduce their overtime budget. Overtime in the fire department is used so that individuals that are not already on the schedule or already have worked enough hours in a week can cover vacancies created by other firefighters that are out sick, on vacation, firefighters that have resigned and their positions are vacant. This having fully staffed fire stations allows for the fire personnel to keep each station open, so there's not brownouts at different stations, which has historically been a problem in the distant past that we're trying to avoid. It also prevents fire apparatus from arriving on scene without enough people to actually go into a fire and fight the fire. In terms of fires, every 3 minutes a residential fire doubles in size. So when you lose time in responding to a fire, you lose property and you could lose life. For those reasons, we do not think it is in the best interest of this community to reduce the overtime budget as suggested, because it will reduce the effective response times of our fire department and fire safety and health concerns. Thank you.
Kevin Canty, Vice Chair, Select Board, and our Fire Chief, Neil Foley, will be available to answer questions. We'll vote on this motion to amend, and then, depending on how that vote goes, we will then vote finally on the main motion on Subcommittee Report C, either as presented or as amended. If there are no further questions, we'll move on to Subcommittee Report D. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends with unanimous vote of 13-0 that approval of Subcommittee Report D section of the budget, and that town meeting approve an appropriation of $14,259,765 as detailed in the Subcommittee Report D.
Thank you. It's a majority vote. And if there are no further questions, we're going to move on to Subcommittee Report E. Mr. Neerman.
The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by a vote of 11 for, 2 votes against, and 2 abstentions, approval of Subcommittee Report E section of the budget, that town meeting approve an appropriation of $6,222,984 as detailed in Subcommittee Report E.
Thank you. And next, that's a majority. Subcommittee Report F. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by a vote of 12 for, 1 against, and 0 abstentions, approval of Subcommittee Report F section of the budget, and recommends town meeting approve an appropriation of $127,647,811 as detailed in Subcommittee Report F.
Thank you. It's a majority vote. Next, we would be moving on to Article 6, which is the Water Enterprise Budget. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends with a unanimous vote of 13 for, 0 against, 0 abstentions, approval of Article 6, Water Enterprise Operating Budget, and that the town meeting approve an appropriation of $6,346,287 as detailed in Subcommittee Report G, Water Enterprise. The committee also recommends approval of the indirect cost for the water enterprise in the amount of $1,776,968.
And this is a majority vote. Moving on. Article 7, Sewer Enterprise Budget.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends with a unanimous vote of 13 for, 0 against, 0 abstentions for the approval of the Sewer Enterprise Operating Budget, Article 7, and that town meeting approve an appropriation of $8,977,272 as detailed in Subcommittee Report G, the Sewer Enterprise. The committee also recommends approval of the indirect costs for the Sewer Enterprise in the amount of $511,173.
Thank you. It's a majority vote. Article 8, Solid Waste Enterprise Budget. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by unanimous vote of 13-0 that town meeting approves Article 8, Solid Waste Enterprise Operating Budget, and that town meeting approve an appropriation of $958,417 as detailed in Subcommittee G Report, Solid Waste Enterprise. The committee also recommends approval of the indirect costs for the Solid Waste Enterprise in the amount of $430,722.
Thank you. Majority vote. Article 9, Airport Enterprise Budget. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends, with a vote of 10 for, 3 against, and 0 abstentions, approval of the Airport Enterprise Fund Report G, and approve an appropriation of $3,802,722 as detailed in Subcommittee Report G, Airport Enterprise Fund. The committee also recommends approval of the indirect costs for the Airport Enterprise in the amount of $433,477.
Thank you. It's a majority vote. Article 10 is the Cable Public Access Enterprise Budget. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends with a unanimous vote of 13 for, 0 against, 0 abstentions to approve Article 10 Cable Public Access Enterprise Operating Budget and approve an appropriation of $1,545,000 as detailed in Subcommittee Report G, Cable Public Access Enterprise. Note there are no indirect costs that go to this enterprise fund.
It's a majority vote. Article 11 is the Facility Capital Maintenance Stabilization Fund. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends with a unanimous vote of 11 for, 0 against, 0 abstentions, that town meeting approve Article 11, Facility Capital Stabilization Fund. Approval of this article will authorize the town to raise and appropriate from the levy to the Facility Capital Maintenance Stabilization Fund for future use as it relates to capital maintenance of town-owned buildings.
It's a majority vote. Article 12 is the Nuclear Stabilization Fund, and we have the motion from the Select Board. Kevin Canty, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. In a vote of 5 to 0 with no abstentions, the Select Board recommends town meeting approve Article 12. Article 12 would seek to place $500,000 into the Nuclear Mitigation Stabilization Fund. There's currently $9.9 million in that fund today. The Nuclear Mitigation Stabilization Fund was created approximately a decade ago. When it was created, there were a number of ideas for the use of the fund that were suggested, one of them being, primarily, the use of the fund to mitigate taxes in the future. When this town negotiated the most recent pilot agreement with Holtec back in October of 2023, it was estimated that the 1,530.35 acres owned by Holtec would cost approximately $35 to $50 million in 2023 dollars if it were to go on the market at that time. The Select Board believes that the best use of the money in that fund and further deposits into that fund is to secure as much of that parcel as we can for this community so that private developers cannot get their hands on it and develop things that we do not want there, such as residential developments that would drain our services by having to provide police, fire, schools, DPW, such and water and sewer and related services to them in perpetuity. We can only purchase that property, if we have the money available to do so. We can try and partner with other entities, private entities, state grants, federal grants to the extent that they're available. But that kind of money, those kinds of funds will come with strings, and we want as much money on hand for this community to make its own decisions as to this parcel, the single biggest undeveloped parcel in this community. Some have pointed out that because the fund was originally created and marketed as being used for future tax mitigation, that the intent of the fund is changing, and they're uncomfortable with that. I would point out that pursuant to state law, specifically Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5B, which governs the creation of municipal stabilization funds, it says in that statute in relevant part, quote, "At the time of creating any stabilization fund, the city, town, or district shall specify and at any later time may alter the purpose of the fund, which may be for any lawful purpose," end quote. So, even if you believe that at the time this fund was created, it was going to be used primarily for the purposes of tax mitigation, it is perfectly legitimate for us to change the intended purpose at this time, because while tax mitigation would be a lawful purpose, the purchase of property is also a lawful purpose. I would also point out, if you were to use this fund in its entirety as it exists today at $9.9 million to purely mitigate the taxes for this current year, the effect would only be to reduce the current tax rate by 3 cents. And the services that would have to be provided to to any residential developments that were built on this property would have to be provided in perpetuity, meaning forever. So the Select Board believes it is more prudent for this community to take its destiny into its own hands for once and to purchase this property, and that placing more money into the Nuclear Mitigation Stabilization Fund is the best way in order to secure a vital part of this community's future. So for those reasons, the Select Board recommends town meeting approve Article 12. Thank you.
It was Mr. Canty presenting on behalf of the Select Board, Stephen Neerman on behalf of the Advisory and Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Canty, for your enthusiasm. We appreciate that. The Advisory and Finance Committee rejected Article 12, the Nuclear Mitigation Stabilization Fund, for the second year in a row due to concerns amongst some of our committee members that the intended purpose of this fund is for tax mitigation and not for land. And while it may be legal, the intent from the beginning was for tax mitigation.
Thank you. It's a majority vote, and we'll debate it at town meeting, and then we will go on to Article 13, capital improvements. We have A items, which are majority vote, B items, which are 2/3 involving borrowing. And there are times when town meeting members contact me and request that we take a certain item separately or bundled with some other items. And rather than have the town meeting member make a motion and take a vote on it, I just grant that request because it's quicker than voting on whether or not to divide these sections of the article. So, having said that, you'll see quite a few here have been separated. So we're going to begin with A6, which is the feasibility study for the police headquarters. And Mr. Neerman, did you want to make a general recommendation for the A items, or are you going to speak to the specifically?
We approved them unanimously, 13 to 0, so we don't need to split them up and separately discuss it.
On all the A items, all right. And so we have first A6, and it's a majority, and that's the feasibility study for police headquarters. Then A28, roadway improvement program and preservation, and that will be heard separately. We were then going to go to A30, 31, and 32. We will take them together because they relate to DPW highway equipment. And then we will go to A33, which is brick repointing. And finally, we will then take the remaining articles, A1 to A5, A7 to A27, A29, A34 to 43. And that is unless there are any other requests to take any of the items separately. But we have people who will respond. For A28, Bill Coyle is the DPW director. Again, he will respond to 30, 31, and 32. He will respond to the brick repointing. And also, Carl Anderson is our disability director. And then for the remaining articles, we have people can respond. Those are the A articles. They are all a majority vote. We then would go to the B articles, and Mr. Neerman on the Article 13B articles.
Yeah, and the Advisory and Finance Committee, by unanimous vote, approved the B section.
And each of these are treated separately due to the 2/3 vote in the borrowing. So B1, we can get answers to questions from Fire Chief Neil Foley, also B2 from the Fire Chief. B3 would be from the DPW Director, and also specifically from the wastewater, Doug Peniel. Article 14 on the roads is a majority vote. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by unanimous vote, 13 for, 0 against, 0 abstentions, to have town meeting approve Article 14, Chapter 90 roads. Approval of this article will enable the town to accept State Highway Chapter 90 funds for repairs and reconstruction of public roads. While the estimated amount of Chapter 90 funds for fiscal 2026 was not known at the time this report was prepared, the town did receive more than $1.5 million for fiscal 2025, and the town expects a similar amount in fiscal 2026, unless there is a change in policy and/or the state's financial health.
Now, if this passed in the consent agenda, we will skip 14, we will skip 15, which we heard from Mr. Neerman previously, and we would then go on to Article 16, which is to reduce borrowing for the Plymouth Coalition for the Homeless. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by unanimous vote of 12-4, 0 against, 0 abstentions, to approve Article 16, which is to reduce borrowing Plymouth Area Coalition for the Homeless. Approval of this article will authorize the town to use available fiscal 2026 Community Preservation Act revenues to reduce the borrowing commitment for the Plymouth Area Coalition for the Homeless.
Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance, available to answer questions, along with Edward Bradley, who is the Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. Article 17 is to reduce borrowing at Stevens Field. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee, with a unanimous vote of 12-4, 0 against, 0 abstentions, recommends town meeting approve Article 17, which is a reduction of borrowing for Stevens Field. The approval of this article will authorize the town to use available fiscal year 2026 Community Preservation Act revenues in an amount to be determined by the Finance Director to reduce the borrowing commitment for the restoration and rehabilitation of Stevens Field project.
Again, Lynn Barrett, Edward Bradley, available to answer questions. And moving on, Article 18, we have the CPC annual budget. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you. And the Advisory and Finance Committee unanimously voted 12-4, 0 against, 0 abstentions to recommend town meeting approve Article 18, which is the CPA fund budget account set aside. Approval of this article will allow the Community Preservation Committee to allocate 10% of the estimated annual revenues of the Community Preservation Fund, CPA, for future spending in community housing. Additionally, 4% of the estimated annual revenues of the CPA will be set aside for funding administrative and operational expenses, and an amount will be set aside for interest expense on debt.
Thank you. Lynn Barrett, available to answer questions. Majority vote. Article 19 withdrawn. Article 20, no motion, no action. Article 21 is proposed bylaw for school facilities maintenance. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you. And the Advisory and Finance Committee, with a unanimous vote of 13-4, 0 against, 0 abstentions, recommends town meeting approve Article 21, proposed bylaw school facilities maintenance. Approval of this article will codify the current status quo of town and school operations into the general bylaws and will prevent any future proposed consolidation efforts from occurring without town meeting approval. But town meeting can change a general bylaw at any town meeting to reflect a desirable potential future consolidation agreement.
Thank you. And this is a majority vote. Kevin Canty, Vice Chair, will you be making a presentation?
Yes.
Would you like to say anything at this time?
Yes, I would, Mr. Moderator. Thank you.
Proceed.
All right. Article 21 seeks to codify the current status quo of town and school operations with no changes in the town's general bylaws rather than in the town charter. The Select Board and Town Administration worked with the school committee and school administration to agree upon the text of this proposed general bylaw. Members of the Plymouth Select Board and the Plymouth School Committee, as well as administrators on both sides, have been meeting regularly for the past 9 months or so to discuss ways the town and schools can best collaborate going forward. Part of those conversations have involved examining the potential for ways to consolidate certain services that both the town and schools currently provide. There are no immediate plans for consolidation of specific services at this time, but the two sides have agreed to study the issue. Prior studies on the topic of consolidation have happened many years ago as part of attempted consolidation efforts that never came to fruition. But given today's ever-changing world, we believe there may be new benefits to the town, schools, students, and residents if consolidation were to be explored today. Any future consolidation efforts would involve collaborative planning between the Select Board, the School Committee, and town and school administrations. Any bargaining units that would be impacted by any proposed consolidation would also be involved in these negotiations. And it is not the intent of anyone that any employees would lose their jobs. Lastly, town meeting would have to approve any proposed consolidation. That brings us to Article 21. Codifying the current status quo in the general bylaws will prevent any future proposed consolidation efforts from occurring without town meeting approval, but town meeting can change a general bylaw at any town meeting to reflect a desirable future consolidation agreement. Changing a general bylaw takes approximately 90 to 120 days to take effect, whereas changing the town charter takes 18 months to 2 years in order to take effect. It should be highlighted that this article is being presented to town meeting at the same time as Article 22. Article 22 would remove a special clause in the town charter to allow for consolidation discussions to continue. If Article 21 and 22 are passed by town meeting, it is possible that no future agreement on consolidation is reached. If that is the case, the current status quo will be forever maintained in the town's general bylaws. Further, if a consolidation agreement is reached between the town and the schools, but town meeting is not in favor of the agreement, then town meeting can refuse to alter the general bylaws to reflect such an agreement, and the status quo would still be maintained. Passage of Articles 21 and 22 will give town meeting the final say on the potential for future consolidation of town and school services, rather than leaving that decision up to the Massachusetts legislature. Lastly, the Select Board, Town Administration, the School Committee, and School Administration are all in agreement on the passage of this general bylaw. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. And that would be a majority vote for Article 21. And also now on Article 22, Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 22 by a vote of 12 votes for, 1 vote against, and 0 abstentions. Approval of this article will delete Section 4-3-2D to remove the requirement that the schools have superintendents of their buildings and grounds from the town charter.
Thank you. And Mr. Canty, you already referred to this. Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I did.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Article 22 seeks to remove a specific clause in the town charter. This needs to be removed in order to allow for consolidation discussions to continue. Select Board, Town Administration, the School Committee, and School Administration are all in favor of removing this provision from the town charter. The specific provision to be removed is Section 4-3-2D, which currently gives the schools sole superintendents over all school buildings and grounds. It is important to remove this clause now because, if approved at this or any future town meeting, it will take approximately 18 months to 2 years after town meeting action on this item for the Massachusetts legislature to actually approve the removal of this clause from the charter. The town and the schools are in agreement that it is better to remove this clause now while discussions continue so that any potential future agreement on consolidation does not have to wait a full 18 months to 2 years in order to take effect. A similar proposal was presented as part of a series of articles proposed at the Charter Review Committee at the October town meeting, but it was presented as part of a bundle of proposed revisions. That particular bundle of revisions did not get approved by town meeting, so this section of the charter was not changed by any of the actions that took place at the October town meeting. The Select Board believes this proposal, presented individually rather than as part of a bundle, deserves further consideration by town meeting. It should be highlighted that this article is being presented at town meeting at the same time as Article 21, which we just discussed. If Article 21 and 22 are passed by town meeting, it is possible, once again, that no future agreement on consolidation is reached. If that is the case, the current status quo will be forever maintained in the town's general bylaws. Further, if a consolidation agreement is reached between the town and the schools, but town meeting is not in favor of the agreement, just one more reminder that town meeting could refuse to alter the general bylaws to reflect that agreement, and the status quo would still be maintained. Passage of Articles 21 and 22 will give town meeting the final say on the potential for future consolidation of town and school services, rather than leaving that decision up to the Massachusetts legislature. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Canty. On behalf of the Select Board, we'll be handling each of these separately. This is a 2/3 vote because of the charter change. Article 23, Charter Review Committee, Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends with a unanimous vote of 13 for, 0 against, 0 abstentions, for town meeting to approve Article 23, which is the Charter Amendment Charter Review Committee. Approval of this article will expand the scope of the Charter Review Committee's report to town meetings to include recommending new or amended general bylaw changes.
Thank you. And on this one, Mr. Canty.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Article 23 seeks to permit future charter review committees to propose new general bylaws to town meeting at the same time as any proposed charter changes that they may propose to town meeting. Plymouth's town charter contains many clauses and provisions that some believe would be better codified in the general bylaws. Town meeting members can change the general bylaws themselves at any town meeting, while a charter change that town meeting is in favor of requires additional approval by the Massachusetts legislature and, as previously mentioned, takes 18 months to 2 years in order to take effect. Giving a charter review committee the ability to propose general bylaws does not guarantee such bylaws would be approved by town meeting. Any future proposed general bylaws that a charter review committee presents to town meeting would be evaluated by town meeting members and assessed on their individual merits, just like any proposed charter changes would be. But if a future charter review committee believed one or more provisions of the charter would be better situated in the general bylaws, then approval of Article 23 would seek to permit that charter review committee to propose general bylaw language that would replace the charter provision they seek to alter, so that both the charter revision and bylaw language could be assessed by town meeting at the same time. It should be noted that only town meeting can approve changes to the general bylaws, not the select board, not the school committee, not the planning board, or any other part of town government. Only town meeting can approve general bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to just mention, as you're seeing in this preview, it's very helpful as we prepare and plan for town meeting if you intend to make a presentation or if you intend to make a motion. If you contact me in advance, we can provide you with, in a sense, a platform to have more transparency with the town meeting members. So tonight, you heard earlier, we had motions from Jerry Williams with respect to the budget. We have presentations from Mr. Canty, and we have more motions coming up from other town meeting members, as well as we had the earlier motion from Betty Cavaco moving Article 12. So a reminder, please contact me in advance of town meeting if you wish or think you may want to make a motion. And if you want to be in the motion book, we have a deadline. Nicole mentioned that deadline earlier, and it's a deadline in order to get the book prepared and printed and then in the hands of town meeting members for Saturday and be emailed in advance. And I believe that is Thursday at noon.
Let me just double
And
check.
she'll double check that while she's, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Right.
The town clerk says that is correct. So Article 24, Land Use Acquisition Committee, Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee unanimously recommends by a vote of 12 for, 0 against, 0 abstentions, that town meeting approve Article 24, which is the Charter Amendment Land Use Acquisition Committee. Approval of this article will expand the Land Use and Acquisition Committee's role to include advisory capacity of conveyance and disposition of real property and in any instances as requested by the town manager on behalf of the select board, and to reduce the appointing authority for the Conservation Commission to 1 member and to add appointing authority to the Agricultural Commission for 1 member to the Land Use and Acquisition Committee.
Thank you. It's a 2/3 vote. Can you have questions answered from Hampton Watkins, who's the chair of the Land Use Acquisition Committee? Article 25, the HERO Act and the cost of living increase. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by a vote of 11 for, 0 against, and 1 abstention that town meeting approve Article 25, HERO Act Cost of Living Increase. Approval of this article will allow the assessors to increase the real estate property tax exemptions for qualifying military service members, veterans, and their spouses annually by an amount equal to the increase in the cost of living as determined by the Consumer Price Index for such year.
Thank you. It's a majority vote. Michael Hurahan, the Director of Assessing, available to answer questions. Article 26, HERO Act exemption amount increase. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by a vote of 11 for, 0 against, and 1 abstention to approve Article 26, HERO Act exemption amount increase. Approval of this article will allow the assessors to grant an additional real estate property tax exemption for qualifying military service members, veterans, and their spouses in an amount equal to 50% of the amount of the exemption for which the taxpayer qualifies for.
It's a majority vote. Again, Michael Hurahan, Director of Assessing, available to answer questions. Article 27 is a citizen's petition on a zoning amendment for light industrial to mixed commerce. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends by a vote of 12 votes for, 1 against, and 0 abstentions to approve Article 27, Citizens Petition Zoning Bylaw Amendment Light Industrial to Mixed Commerce. Approval of this article will amend the zoning bylaw official zoning map of the town of Plymouth by changing the designation of lots 11B, 26A, and 27 on the Assessor's Map 102, located off Commerce Way and Cherry Street, from Light Industrial District to Mixed Commerce District, as well as to amend associated sections, provisions, definitions, tables, charts, and procedures pertaining thereto.
Zoning amendments are a 2/3 vote. Lee Hartman, Director of Planning Development, available to answer questions. Also, Attorney William Sims on behalf of the petitioner. Article 28 is a citizen's petition. It is a bylaw amendment regarding public comment. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee recommends, with a unanimous vote of 13 for, 0 against, 0 abstentions, that town meeting approve Article 28 as amended. Article 28 is the citizen's petition, a bylaw amendment for public comment. Approval of this article will add paragraph 173-13 to the town bylaw. Each precinct caucus shall have provision in its agenda for public comment. At the discretion of the chair, public comment may be made at one time or interspersed with presentations at the meeting. A minimum of 2 minutes should be allowed for each public comment speaker, but may be allowed a longer period at the discretion of the chair.
I'd like to explain a ruling that I made on this particular article, and that is that the main motion from the Advisory and Finance Committee is lesser included than what is presented in the warrant. And so it varies. When I spoke with the petitioner who questioned that, I indicated that it is possible that if you are within the scope of an article, but choose not to move all that is warned in the warrant, that can be done. And so you have the Advisory and Finance Committee with their main motion. We'll have a petitioner presentation next from George McKay, and following that, we would be hearing motions to amend. The first motion to amend is from Ken Stone. Mr. Stone, you see that I did accept your motion and made that one change on the word. Did you care to get up and explain your motion at this preview? Kenneth Stone is a town meeting member in Precinct 16, and again, he contacted me in advance, which is important when we have bylaws. We're not going to be drafting bylaws on town meeting floor. Mr. Stone, welcome.
Yes, thank you. I've had the experience of attending a caucus as a resident where I was not allowed to speak, so I support the intent of Article 28. However, requiring that each speaker be given a minimum of 2 minutes to address a meeting without providing some mechanism for ending discussion could ultimately allow for repetitive comments and a dialogue going on well past what is useful. Putting a frame on the length of time allowed for public comment would address that issue. In our precinct, we generally do not have so many residents attending for that to be a problem, but within the last year, there have been 2 caucuses affecting Precinct 16 where we had well over 100 residents in attendance. Time frames for discussion were essential in effectively managing those meetings. In town meeting, we have a mechanism to end discussion when this occurs, and that generally works well. When a majority of town meeting members feel they have heard enough and see little value in continuing, they can move to end discussion, and we do that regularly in town meeting. I believe we're going to codify a time frame for the public's right to comment. Having the ability to set some parameters at caucus meetings makes similar good sense. As this bylaw is written, there's no provision for that. Requiring the chair to consult with the rest of the precinct's town meeting members should assuage anyone's concerns that the chair might act in an authoritarian or controlling manner to limit speech, which has been stated as the primary motivating factor driving the citizens' petition. If this amendment passes, chairs may set or extend time limits, but that'll be based on the will of their peers, and if not, they will yield to an override of their decision by a majority vote. So I think this amendment would improve Article 28 by requiring public comment, while at the same time providing a mechanism to end discussion on those occasions when town meeting members in a caucus deem it appropriate.
Thank you. Mr. Stone's motion to amend will be debated separately. It'll be voted separately. And does anybody have any questions of Mr. Stone? If not, at town meeting, once we vote on the motion to amend, we'll proceed with the main motion, either as amended or not. Did I hear anybody? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stone. And so it's a majority vote. Next, motion to amend George McKay, Precinct 8, moves to amend the motion, the main motion, by adding the following sentence after the last sentence. And just as an aside, it would either be the last sentence in the main motion, or if it's amended, it would be the last sentence, it would be Mr. Stone's sentence that this would follow. And he moves to add the following 5 words. Public comments cannot be censored, and it's a majority vote. And Mr. McKay will be at town meeting, and he will be making a petition presentation, and he can also speak on his motion to amend. And then finally, once we've taken the 2 motions to amend, we would then vote on the main motion, whether it's amended or not. It's a majority vote. Moving on to Article 29, a citizen's petition, home rule, digital legal notices. Mr. Neerman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Advisory and Finance Committee unanimously recommends by a vote of 13 for, 0 against, 0 abstentions, that town meeting approve Article 29, which is the citizens petition home rule digital legal notices. Approval of this article will authorize the Select Board to petition the Massachusetts General Court for special legislative allowing digital legal notices for the town of Plymouth as defined in the 2025 spring annual town meeting warrant and as on file with the town clerk.
Thank you. And this is a majority vote. We have a motion to amend from Richard Cirque, Precinct 2. And again, another ruling that I'd like to explain. Mr. Cirque initially presented an entirely new main motion. And his main motion was primarily the same as what you see printed here from the Advisory and Finance Committee, with one change, which you see in his motion to amend. I told him that his substituting main motion was improper, but that the appropriate way to do it would be to do the motion to amend, which is what you see printed in the materials. And he moves to strike through and insert Section B language as follows. Section B, a print-free online publication or the website of a print-free online news site reporting local news and opinion. Mr. Cirque will speak to his motion to amend. Town meeting will then vote on whether to approve the motion to amend, and then we would go back to the main motion, which we would debate and then vote either as amended or not. And that completes the articles in the warrant. Town meeting can, again, at any time, move to change the order, move to reconsider, but if there are no more procedural motions, Mr. Neerman would then move to dissolve the annual town meeting. Are there any other questions from those assembled in the room? I do want to thank the local scene for cablecasting this live, in particular David Antoine, who has been coordinating all the preparation for our town meeting. I'd like to thank the panel, which includes Dr. Christopher Campbell, Superintendent of Schools, Nicole Manfredi, the Assistant Town Manager, Assistant Town Moderator, Stephen Neerman, who is the Chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee, Derek Brindisi, who is our Town Manager, Kevin Canty, Vice Chair of the Select Board, Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance. We have here Kelly McElreath, who is our Town Clerk, and finally from the Advisory and Finance Committee, member Joseph Lally. Thank you to all of you who have come this evening to participate, including a number of town meeting members. And again, a reminder that Plymouth's annual town meeting will begin a week from Saturday, April 5th at 8 a.m. at Plymouth North High School. Thank you for joining us this evening. Good night.